Roman Reigns has just ripped the WWE Universe apart, again. In an earth-shaking Money in the Bank 2025 main event, the long-absent Tribal Chief stormed the ladder match, flattened every contender in sight, and unhooked the briefcase like it was destiny. But the biggest shock? Paul Heyman's jaw-dropped reaction the instant Reigns held that contract high above the carnage. If you thought their alliance was unbreakable, think again, because tonight, loyalty got tossed off a 20-foot ladder. In this video we're breaking down every last second of Reigns' thunderous return, cold open chaos, how the lights went out, the arena gasped, and DAAM erupted when Reigns' music hit. Move-by-move destruction, Reigns Superman punching Seth Rollins off the ladder, spearing Drew McIntyre through a table, and making LA Knight eat steel. Heyman's meltdown, the split-screen backstage camera that caught the wise man clutching his head, frantically dialing, who? Fallout and future shock, what the briefcase means for Reigns' path back to championship gold, and how Seth's empire, Cody's dream, and Punk's revival just got thrown into utter chaos. Buckle up for slow-mo replays, hidden Easter eggs, and insider scoops you won't get on Raw. Smash that like button if Reigns' surprise sent chills down your spine, subscribe for daily WWE bombshells, and ring the so you never miss an update on the Tribal Chief's next move. Tell us what you think in the comments. Is Heyman secretly planning revenge? Who should Roman cash in on, Rollins or McIntyre? And did tonight mark the beginning of a new bloodline? What just happened? Those three words didn't just ripple across the commentary table. They detonated across the WWE Universe like a super kick to the skull. If you were watching live, you know exactly where you were when it happened. The ladder match was chaos. Bodies everywhere. Seth Rollins was inches from the briefcase. LA Knight was rallying. Drew McIntyre had just powerbombed Cody Rhodes through a ladder. The crowd was at a fever pitch. And then, blackout. No warning. No countdown. Just pitch-black silence. The arena froze. Phones lit up like fireflies. People screamed, but not in excitement, in confusion. A full 10 seconds passed before that unmistakable note hit. The beat dropped. The Tribal Chief's theme exploded from the speakers. And in that instant, the crowd erupted into the kind of roar that splits buildings. Roman Reigns had returned. And not just with a message or a stare down. He returned with war in his eyes. Let's rewind. Money in the Bank 2025 wasn't just any premium live event. It was the most anticipated show of the summer. Every title was on the line. Every storyline felt like it had stakes. Seth Rollins was riding high as World Heavyweight Champion, finally leading his era. Cody Rhodes was still chasing his finish the story narrative, McIntyre had rebuilt himself into a dominant contender, and LA Knight? He was the fan favorite, the walking soundbite, the dark horse destined to surprise. And Reigns? Gone. Disappeared after WrestleMania. No promos. No backstage whispers. No appearances, not even a graphic. The last time fans saw him, he was crushed by betrayal inside his own family. Solo Sikoa turned. The Usos walked. Paul Heyman cried. Roman Reigns, for the first time in nearly 4 years, looked defeated. Human. Rumors swirled. Injury. Retirement. Suspension. Or maybe, just maybe, WWE had pulled him off the board so that when he came back, the entire chessboard would flip. It flipped all right. It flipped, burned, and shattered. The MITB ladder match had already become a car crash of ambition and vengeance. Cody had a busted shoulder. Seth was bleeding from the mouth. Drew was limping from a spine-shattering fall through the announce table. Knight was climbing. The crowd was chanting. The camera zoomed in on fingertips brushing the briefcase. And then, nothing. No lights. No commentary. No ambient noise. Just silence. Blackout moments in WWE are sacred. Undertaker. The Fiend. Nexus. They mean something. They promise danger. But this wasn't some new debut or spooky gimmick. This was legacy. This was dominance incarnate. When Roman's theme hit, the ground shifted. He didn't walk out with fireworks or a cinematic vignette. He walked out like a man who never left. Confident. Controlled. Cold. In that split second, TikTok melted. Twitter, sorry, X, hit trending status with hashtag Reigns returns in less than 2 minutes. Live streamers screamed. Fans cried. Old-school diehards who'd written him off as another Cena were now clutching their phones like kids on Christmas. Love him or hate him, Roman Reigns isn't just a character. He's a gravitational force. And when that music hit, the entire WWE landscape shifted. Backstage, producers were allegedly scrambling. Cameras didn't cut away fast enough. One segment even caught LA Knight looking toward the ramp like he'd seen a ghost. But the man most shaken wasn't in the ring. He was backstage. Watching a monitor. Mouth agape. Phone slipping from his hand. Paul Heyman. Now, let's hit pause here. This wasn't just a return. This was a reckoning. And Heyman? The man who'd once christened Roman the head of the table, who had stood by him during betrayals, title wars, and bloodline implosions, he looked like a man who'd just seen God return with a sword, not a blessing. In a split-screen camera feed, likely unintentional, possibly genius, we saw the wise man freeze. His eyes locked on the monitor. His mouth twitched. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He didn't whisper, "My tribal chief," like he used to. He clutched his phone and stared. And then, shakily, he dialed. But who? That's the question we'll keep coming back to. Because if this return was planned, if this was Paul's masterstroke, he didn't act like it. And if it wasn't, then what happens next is far more dangerous than anyone realizes. There's something about Roman Reigns that makes even his silence loud. His absence in 2025 was a silence that screamed. And when he came back, he didn't cut a promo. He didn't point to the WrestleMania sign. He didn't even look at the fans. He just destroyed. One by one. No wasted motion. No theatrics. Just violence. He hurled Seth off the ladder like garbage. Speared McIntyre through steel. Smashed Knight against the turnbuckle so hard the rope shook loose. And when he climbed the ladder, briefcase looming, there was no hesitation. Like it belonged to him. Like it had always belonged to him. And in that moment, the world knew, Roman Reigns didn't just return. He took over. Again. Let's be clear, this wasn't just a cool pop. This was a narrative nuke. It tore through every established arc in WWE right now. It made Cody's dream feel fragile. It cracked Seth's champion aura. It cast doubt over every other superstar's place on the card. Roman didn't just come back to compete. He came back to remind everyone why he left as the biggest star in the industry. And the Heyman factor? The briefcase? The questions surrounding his allegiance, his next move, his possible new bloodline, it all turns this from a comeback into a coup. Paul Heyman's face wasn't just shocked, it was scared. And that's the part we need to sit with. Because if Heyman is scared, then the rest of WWE should be terrified. Heyman knows what Reigns is capable of. He helped build the tribal chief. He whispered strategies in his ear. He helped orchestrate an empire. And now? He may be watching the first sparks of its destruction. If Reigns doesn't need Heyman anymore, what does he want? Revenge? Reinvention? Domination? Or something darker, something new? This isn't just about Roman. It's about what comes next. Will he cash in on Seth Rollins? Take the World Heavyweight title that eluded him? Will he go after Cody Rhodes and finish his story before it ever reaches the final chapter? Will he rebuild the bloodline? Or burn what's left of it to the ground? The fuse has been lit. The arena has been shaken. And the only thing we know for sure is this: the tribal chief is back. And this time, he didn't come to play chess. He came to flip the board. There's a point in every WWE main event when the crowd collectively senses it: the finish is near. That moment when the ring becomes a war zone, the announce team's voices start climbing in pitch, and fans in the front row stand with their phones out, ready to capture the final shot. At Money in the Bank 2025, that moment was ticking into focus. The ring was littered with broken ladders. Seth Rollins, battered and barely upright, was dragging himself up a steel frame, one rung at a time. LA Knight was underneath, trying to reset a fallen ladder. Cody Rhodes was crawling toward the apron, his ribs wrapped, his eyes locked on the briefcase like it was oxygen. The arena had reached a fever pitch. This was the climax. You could feel it. The audience knew someone was about to grasp glory. And then, darkness. At first, it felt like a technical glitch. The lights didn't flicker, they died. The Titantron cut to black. Ring lights off. Crowd silenced. Then came the moment every wrestling fan lives for: collective confusion that morphs into fear, then into white-hot excitement. Phones lit up across the audience. Thousands of glowing screens filled the arena like a sea of fireflies. The silence stretched. People shouted, "What's going on? Is this part of the show?" And then, a scream from the crowd: someone had guessed it. Others followed. A chant began to brew: Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns. And then it hit. Not just the music, but the impact. That deep, thunderous dom that kicks off Roman's entrance theme boomed through the speakers like an earthquake. No strobe lights. No pyro. Just that raw, pulsing tribal beat echoing across the black void. The place exploded. Roman Reigns didn't sprint. He didn't rush. He stalked. Out from the smoke and shadows, he stepped onto the stage in full gear, black vest, boots tight, with the Money in the Bank logo burning red behind him. And in that moment, the WWE Universe forgot everything else. This wasn't a surprise entrant. This wasn't nostalgia. This was apex predator energy, a war god returning to his battlefield. Every camera cut to the faces of stunned superstars inside the ring. Seth had stopped mid-climb. Knight froze like he'd seen a ghost. McIntyre mouthed, "No way." Cody turned toward the ramp with a look that said it all: "This changes everything." And it did. Because in less than 3 minutes, Roman Reigns dismantled 6 world-class athletes like they were JV. First target, LA Knight. Knight ran at him with a ladder, rookie mistake. Roman ducked, rebounded off the ropes, and hit a Superman punch so hard it knocked Knight clean out of the ring. Gone. Next, Seth Rollins. Roman yanked him down mid-climb, spun him around, and dropped him with a sickening runnage onto a folded ladder. Seth writhed, one arm clutching his back, the other twitching. He wouldn't get up again. Drew McIntyre charged next. That didn't last long. Roman baited him into the corner, ducked under a claymore, and speared him straight through a ringside table with such ferocity the commentary team screamed, "Sweet mother of Cody?" He never made it to Roman. A well-placed chair shot from behind, followed by a brutal uppercut, and he was done. Roman didn't even need to finish him. The others had softened him up. Then the ring cleared. One man stood. Roman Reigns looked at the ladder, then looked at the audience. And for a moment, just a moment, he smirked. He set up the ladder in the center of the ring. No rush. No fear. The briefcase swayed above, almost as if it were waiting for him. The camera zoomed in tight on his face. Not angry, not triumphant, just certain. Every step up the ladder echoed in the silence of the moment. The fans weren't even chanting anymore. They were watching history happen in real time. When Roman reached the top, he didn't pause for drama. He reached up and unhooked the briefcase like it was already his. He held it above his head, standing atop the ladder, as the lights came back on in full. And that's when the real story started. The screen split. One half showed Roman Reigns atop the ladder, holding the briefcase like a war trophy. The other half showed Paul Heyman backstage, watching from a monitor. He looked like a man who had seen a ghost. Not fear. Not awe. Panic. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't clapping. He didn't even say a word. He backed away from the screen slowly. Shaking. Whispering something to himself. Then, with trembling fingers, he pulled out his phone and started dialing. But who was he calling? That's the question that lit 1,000 conspiracy threads. And that's the moment the storyline transcended the match. When the briefcase came down, you could feel the tremor. In the crowd, some people were jumping with joy. Others were cursing. Some just stared, mouths open. But nobody was unmoved. Online, it was like a digital riot. Clips of the blackout, the entrance, and the moment Roman unhooked the briefcase flooded timelines within seconds. Commentators didn't even know what to say. It was like someone had rewritten the ending of a movie as it was playing. And Roman? He didn't cut a promo. He didn't point at the camera. He didn't even acknowledge Heyman. He just walked away, briefcase in hand, while 6 men lay broken in the wreckage behind him. The broadcast faded out with Roman standing on the ramp, looking back at the carnage he left in the ring. He lifted the briefcase one last time. No pyro. No goodbye. Just dominance. This wasn't just a return. This was a warning. And it was only the beginning. Before Roman Reigns turned Money in the Bank 2025 into a war zone, before Paul Heyman's eyes widened in stunned betrayal, before the lights died and the roof blew off the building, there was order. It was temporary. Fragile. But for a moment, the world made sense. The main event had been advertised for weeks as one of the most stacked MITB ladder matches in WWE history. Not because of how many competitors were involved, but who they were. Every name announced carried weight, momentum, and history. This wasn't a filler match of hopeful up-and-comers. This was a battlefield of kings. And the crowd knew it. Seth Rollins. The visionary. The architect. The reigning world heavyweight champion who had nothing to gain from entering the match, except control. Rollins didn't need the briefcase. He wanted to deny it to everyone else. He wanted to make a statement: I run this era. I'm the past, present, and future. His inclusion was bold, borderline reckless. But it was also on brand. Rollins thrives on risk. The MITB ladder match is chaos personified, and he walks through chaos like it's a red carpet. Drew McIntyre. The Scottish Warrior had been on a tear since WrestleMania. After losing out in a brutal last-man-standing match against Gunther, he needed redemption. A win here would catapult him back into the world title scene, back into the spotlight he carried through the pandemic era. McIntyre wasn't here for show. He was here to take. Every Claymore kick leading up to the event landed harder. Every promo sounded more desperate. He didn't just want the briefcase. He needed it. LA Knight. The fan favorite. The walking soundbite. The man who turned charisma into currency. LA Knight wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't the corporate pick. But the crowd demanded him into this spot. He had momentum like a tidal wave and swagger to match. Yeah, chants followed him everywhere. The moment his name was announced for the match, the odds shifted. He wasn't just a long shot anymore, he was the people's pick. And people's picks make for dangerous wildcards. Cody Rhodes. The man with the story still unfinished. Cody was in the ladder match by sheer force of will. He'd already headlined WrestleMania. Already fought his heart out against the Bloodline. But the title had remained just out of reach. This wasn't just another match. For Cody, it was an obsession. The briefcase was more than an opportunity. It was a shortcut through the maze of politics, backstabbing, and interference that had kept him from the world title. He had every reason to win. And every reason to fear the return of a certain tribal chief. From the opening bell, the pace was relentless. No wasted time. No slow builds. This was instant carnage. Ladders were weaponized within 60 seconds. Rollins hit a falcon arrow on Cody atop a chair. McIntyre nearly cracked Knight's skull with a brutal lariat. Rhodes and Knight teamed up for a brief moment of offense before turning on each other. The ring felt too small for the egos inside it. Every man had moments of dominance. Every man touched the briefcase. But no one could seal the deal. Because something was off. You can't fool a wrestling crowd. They know when something's coming. It's not just the structure of the match, it's in the pacing. The looks between wrestlers. The way the camera lingers too long on the stage. The commentators' voices getting just a little too serious. There were clues. Seth spending too much time down on the outside. Drew looking over his shoulder one too many times. Cody's eyes constantly checking the ramp. And then, the dead giveaway, LA Knight alone in the ring. No one in the way. The ladder set. The climb beginning. It was too clean. Too perfect. Too obvious. That's when the air changed. This scene wasn't just about building tension. It was about setting a trap, for the fans, the wrestlers, the company's own storytelling. Because everyone had bought into the myth that Roman Reigns was gone. Retired. Injured. Embarrassed. Or worse, done with WWE altogether. Why wouldn't they? It had been months. There were no teases. No video packages. Not even cryptic tweets. And that's why it worked. That's why this moment broke through the screen and grabbed people by the throat. This wasn't a pop. This was a detonation. Roman Reigns appearing wasn't the twist. Him entering the match unannounced and winning it? That's the betrayal. Was this always the plan? This is where the speculation began, even before the broadcast ended. Did WWE plan this all along? Was this why Cody was kept from the title picture again? Why LA Knight's push seemed stalled? Why Heyman had been absent from TV for weeks? Was this the return Roman always intended? To swoop in, decimate everyone, and skip the grind? Or did something else happen? Did Roman go off script? Notice what didn't happen in the lead-up: no Paul Heyman promos. No cryptic advocate vignettes. No "something big is coming" Easter eggs on commentary. That silence now looks deafening. Because it suggests something important: Paul Heyman did not see this coming. And if the wise man didn't know, then what does that say about Roman Reigns today? Is he still the tribal chief? Or has he become something darker? This scene matters not just as the setup, it's the measuring stick. The world before the storm. By taking time to establish the expectations, the structure, the legitimate stakes of the match, we elevate the chaos that followed. Reigns didn't just return to steal a briefcase. He demolished everything that had been carefully constructed for months. He wasn't just a surprise. He was a reset button. And when that calm was shattered, WWE didn't just lose control of the match. It lost control of the narrative. When the lights went out at Money in the Bank 2025, it wasn't just a production cue. It was a seismic shift in storytelling, the kind of moment that happens once every few years and burns itself into the memory of every fan watching. It was 9:47 p.m. local time. The match had been running for nearly 18 minutes. The ladders were mangled. The canvas was stained with sweat and adrenaline. Seth Rollins had just sent Cody Rhodes tumbling with a buckle bomb onto a ladder bridged between the apron and barricade. And then, blackout. No flicker. No warning. Just total, dead black nothing. The only sound was the crowd's breath catching in unison. We've seen lights out before. It's a classic move in WWE's toolbox. Usually, it's used to introduce a supernatural gimmick or a big return. But this felt different. This wasn't eerie, it was heavy. The camera feed cut to static for half a second before going fully dark. The commentary team, who had been yelling over each other, suddenly went silent. Not muted, just stopped. People in the crowd started pointing, screaming. One fan near the barricade was visibly jumping up and down, shouting, "Roman's back! Roman's back!" Another was seen on camera pulling their phone up and muttering, "Please let it be him." And then, that sound. That deep, percussive first note of Roman Reigns' entrance theme dropped like a bomb, followed by the thunder of tribal drums. Then the music hit full force. That was all it took. The arena erupted. No pyro. No lasers. Just the sound. Just the music. And the legend stepping out of the smoke like he never left. Roman Reigns appeared at the top of the ramp in complete shadow at first. The lights rose in sync with the bassline. As the smoke cleared, the camera framed him perfectly, standing still, fists clenched, eyes locked on the ring. Focused. Calm. Dangerous. Gone was the white lei. Gone were the gold boots. This Roman was stripped down. Black tactical vest. Matte black gear. Hair tied tight. No acknowledgement of the fans. No gesture to the sky. No bloodline symbols. Just war. He didn't walk to the ring. He stalked. Each step was deliberate. His shoulders square. His jaw tight. Every wrestler in the ring froze. Seth Rollins, who'd just begun another climb, stopped mid-rung. Cody Rhodes crawled to the corner, visibly mouthing, "What the hell?" Drew McIntyre gripped a chair but didn't lift it. No one moved. WWE production doesn't always get it right. But on this night, they nailed it. As Roman walked to the ring, the main feed stayed wide, showing the chaos he was walking into. Simultaneously, the corner feed lit up with a backstage shot, Paul Heyman watching on a monitor. And he looked like a man witnessing a ghost. Not joy. Not relief. Shock. We'll get to that later. For now, all eyes were on the ramp. As Roman reached ringside, LA Knight was the first to move, too fast, too bold. He charged with a ladder in his hands, hoping to score a highlight reel moment. Instead, he got flattened. Roman sidestepped the charge, caught Knight mid-motion, and spun him around into a Superman punch so stiff it looked like a KO. Knight's head snapped back, his body crumpled like a folding chair. The crowd gasped. This wasn't nostalgia. This was a warning. Seth Rollins descended the ladder just in time to catch a spear that nearly cut him in half. It wasn't flashy. It was cold and clinical. Roman hit him center mass, folded him up, and left him coughing on the mat. Then Roman grabbed him by the hair, muttered something off mic, fans later speculated it was "still your era?" and tossed him out of the ring like trash. The boos started. But they weren't loud. They were stunned. The crowd was still catching up. Drew McIntyre squared up. Unlike the others, he stood his ground. He picked up a broken ladder rung and shouted, "Come on then." Roman nodded, just once, and charged. He ducked Drew's swing, tackled him at the waist, and speared him through the timekeeper's barricade. Debris flew. Officials ducked. Security rushed in. The only sound was the commentary team screaming over each other like kids on a roller coaster, "Oh my God. Oh my, Roman just cut Drew in half. We haven't seen this man in months and he's destroying everything." Rhodes had climbed to the apron, nursing his ribs, when Roman rolled back into the ring. For a second, it looked like Cody might go for a handshake. A fake truce? An alliance? Instead, Roman leveled him with a lariat so hard it turned Cody inside out. He didn't even follow up. He just left him there, writhing. The ring was empty. Roman turned to the ladder. It was already set. He placed one boot on the bottom rung. Then the next. Then the next. The arena went quiet, not in disappointment, not in boredom, but in awe. Every camera zoomed in on his hands reaching up. The briefcase wobbled slightly as his fingers touched it. He unhooked it cleanly. Lifted it overhead. And for the first time in over a year, Roman Reigns stood tall above the WWE Universe. As Reigns raised the briefcase, the feed cut again, not to black, but to a split screen, on one side, Roman atop the ladder, lit by the golden hue of victory. On the other side, Paul Heyman, backstage. Hands on his head. Mouth agape. Face pale. He backed away from the monitor slowly. Eyes never leaving the screen. And then he fumbled for his phone. Pressed a number with trembling fingers. Held it to his ear. He didn't say a word. Just stared. Roman descended the ladder like he was descending a throne. He didn't raise the briefcase to the crowd. He didn't address the camera. He simply stepped through the ropes, walked up the ramp, and disappeared through the curtain. Fade to black. Roman Reigns didn't come back to make a statement. He came back to dismantle. The moment he unhooked the briefcase, it became obvious, this wasn't a triumphant return to glory or a dramatic babyface swerve. This was a reminder. A reminder that Roman Reigns doesn't ask for permission, doesn't play fair, and doesn't respect anyone's rise, not even the men who had carried the company in his absence. He didn't need pyro. He didn't need the bloodline. He didn't need Heyman. All he needed was his fists, a ladder, and his instinct for violence. LA Knight had been the people's pick. The internet's golden boy. The merch mover. The swagger king. And on this night, he was climbing the ladder when everything changed. The camera didn't even have time to adjust before Roman snatched Knight from behind and threw him backward across the ring with a released German suplex. Knight's head whiplashed against a ladder leg, and his momentum crushed the structure under his own weight. The crowd gasped. Not because Knight lost, but because of how violently it was taken from him. Roman didn't stop there. He picked Knight up again, dead weight at this point, and shoved him out of the ring. Then, with a cold stare, he set up a ladder at ringside, propped it between the barricade and apron, and delivered a Samoan drop through steel. Knight didn't move. Medics eventually came to check on him, but Roman had already moved on. Seth had been champion for most of the year. He was the face of Raw, the face of work rate, the face of earned success. Roman Reigns doesn't believe in earning. He believes in taking. Seth tried to fight. He scrambled back into the ring as Roman re-entered, caught him with a sling blade, and nearly landed a stomp. Nearly. Roman rolled out, shook it off, and waited. The moment Seth tried a second stomp, Roman exploded into motion, ducking under, bouncing off the ropes, and delivering a Superman punch that spun Rollins in the air. Then he grabbed him by the neck and powerbombed him directly onto a half-open ladder. Rollins screamed. Not selling. Not showmanship. That was pain. Cody was crawling. Hurt, but not broken. The camera caught him looking at Roman from across the ring. The symbolism was clear. The man who had tried to finish the story was now face to face with the man who had rewritten the story. Cody swung first. A stiff right hand. Then another. Roman took them. Then grinned. He headbutted Cody so hard the echo rang through the arena. Cody went down. Roman dragged him to the outside, cleared the commentary table, and held Cody's head in his hands. Still chasing fairy tales? That's what fans swore he said. No mic. No close-up. Just lip-read speculation. Then he speared Cody through the commentary table. The table didn't just collapse. It exploded. Monitors flew. Wires snapped. The dream? Finished. McIntyre was the last one standing. Barely. After the earlier spear through the barricade, he'd crawled back into the ring, defiant. He grabbed a kendo stick from under the ring. Roman dared him to swing. Drew did. Once. Twice. Each hit echoed. Roman winced, then roared, tackled Drew into the corner, and unleashed a flurry of shoulder blocks that cracked ribs and crushed hope. Then came the final insult. Roman picked up the kendo stick and broke it across Drew's back. The crowd booed. Some cheered. But everyone knew what had just happened. Roman Reigns had just laid waste to WWE's 4 top contenders. And he hadn't even broken a sweat. This wasn't a brawl. It wasn't a surprise attack. It was a calculated assault. Roman took his time. There was no wasted motion. No over-the-top showboating. No acknowledgement of the crowd. He moved with the calm cruelty of a general enforcing discipline on rebels. And the message was clear: you don't run this place. I still do. Roman didn't just hit people. He humiliated them. He went after the fan favorite, Knight, the workhorse champion, Rollins, the legacy prince, Cody, and the dominant warrior, Drew. He didn't pick one lane. He picked every threat. This wasn't about the briefcase. It was about sending a message. A message to fans. To the locker room. To Heyman. To WWE itself. Roman Reigns doesn't wait for permission. He takes what he wants. The audience didn't know how to feel. That's what made it electric. Some fans cheered, finally, the tribal chief had returned. Others booed, how dare he ruin the match, steal the spotlight. Some sat in stunned silence. There were even "Thank you Roman" chants clashing with "You sold out" and "This is bullsh**. It was heat, but not just heel heat. It was confusion, conflict, chaos. That's when wrestling works best. Michael Cole could barely speak. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was not part of the match. Roman Reigns wasn't even, how is this legal? Corey Graves tried to salvage narrative logic. Roman Reigns doesn't need to follow rules. He is the rulebook. And tonight, he just rewrote it. The booth was scrambling, but in the best way. No fake drama. Just pure, real-time improvisation. Because even the commentary team didn't look fully in on the plan. Roman stood in the center of the ring, wreckage all around him. Ladders bent. Bodies motionless. Commentary table in pieces. And in his hand, the briefcase. He lifted it once. Slowly. Not to gloat. Not to scream. Just to remind us all. This wasn't his redemption. It was ours, forever thinking he was gone. Paul Heyman has built a career on control. He's the master of narrative, the king of manipulation, the man who always knows the next 3 moves before you've made your first. But at Money in the Bank 2025, the master manipulator looked like a man left out of the plan. And when Roman Reigns stepped out of the smoke, Heyman wasn't ready. The split-screen image is already iconic. On one side, Roman Reigns stood atop a ladder, unhooking the briefcase. On the other, Heyman stared at a monitor backstage, mouth parted, face drained of color. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He looked like he'd seen death. This wasn't the Paul Heyman we knew, the strategist, the puppeteer. This was a man watching his empire slip away from him in real time. As Roman raised the briefcase overhead, Heyman fumbled in his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped frantically. He held it to his ear. Waited. 1 ring. 2. Still nothing. He pulled the phone away, checked the screen, tapped again. Still nothing. No answer. It was the most telling image of the night, not Reigns' destruction, not the ladder match chaos, not even the briefcase itself. It was Paul Heyman calling someone, presumably Roman, and getting nothing in return. Back at the table, Corey Graves tried to fill in the blanks. I don't know what we're seeing here. Heyman, that doesn't look like a man celebrating. That looks like a man completely out of the loop. Michael Cole added, if Heyman didn't know Roman was coming back, that changes everything. That means the tribal chief isn't taking orders anymore. He's writing his own destiny. And that's when the crowd started chanting, "You got played. You got played." To understand the magnitude of Heyman's reaction, you have to rewind. Paul Heyman wasn't just Roman's mouthpiece, he was his oracle. His manager. His loyal wise man. He was the one who brokered the original alliance after SummerSlam 2020. He was the one who stood by Roman during the rise of the bloodline, through betrayals, through dominance, through war. He was the only man allowed to speak for the tribal chief. And now? He wasn't even allowed a heads up. That's not disrespect. That's a message. Heyman didn't rage. He didn't scream. He shook. When the camera cut to him backstage a second time, now with the ladder match over, the lights back up, the damage done, Heyman was slumped in a chair. Head in his hands. Shoulders sagging. He looked like a man whose religion had been proven false. It wasn't grief. It was confusion. Was he betrayed? Or was he never needed? That's the question that haunts this entire moment. Did Roman Reigns betray Heyman? Or did Roman simply remind him, and all of us, that his reign is no longer built on alliances? Maybe Roman doesn't need a voice anymore. Maybe he's the one calling the shots. And maybe Heyman is just a relic of a past that Roman has already outgrown. Who was he calling? Let's talk about the phone call. Because fans immediately began theorizing. Twitter, Reddit, Discord threads, everyone wanted to know, who was Heyman dialing? 3 names floated to the top, Roman Reigns, obvious choice. The man of the hour. But if that's who Heyman was calling, then why wasn't it answered? Solo Sikoa, could this be the start of a splinter cell within the bloodline? Could Heyman be trying to reach the enforcer who turned on Roman months ago? Brock Lesnar, the nuclear option. Heyman's old client. The beast in the shadows. Could Heyman be setting the table for one last desperate play? Whoever it was, the fact that they didn't answer speaks volumes. Heyman isn't in control anymore. He's reacting, not dictating. And that's dangerous for everyone. We always saw the Heyman-Reigns dynamic as loyalty. Respect. Mutual elevation. But now, in the light of this return, we're forced to reconsider, was Heyman ever truly trusted? Or was he just useful? When Roman was building the bloodline, Heyman served a purpose. He stitched alliances. Handled the PR, whispered into ears. Delivered legal manipulations. But now? Roman walked in alone. Won alone. Left alone. When Heyman saw Roman on that monitor, his reaction wasn't just disbelief. It was terror. His hands trembled. His face went pale. He looked like a man who had broken the rules of a blood oath. Why? Because he knows what Roman Reigns is capable of. He's seen what happens when Roman feels betrayed. And if Roman didn't tell Heyman he was coming back, what does that mean for their relationship? Worse yet, what does Roman believe Heyman has done in his absence? Did Heyman think it was over? In recent months, Heyman had been largely absent from TV. He wasn't building new clients. He wasn't speaking for anyone. He was just gone. Did he assume it was over? Did he abandon the tribal chief? If so, this wasn't just Roman reclaiming power. This was Roman punishing disloyalty. And Heyman knew it. This wasn't the climax of a story. It was the prologue of the next chapter. A chapter where the line between loyalty and survival becomes razor thin. Heyman has to choose now, serve or suffer. Is he still the wise man? Or is he just the next casualty? Roman Reigns didn't say a word. But he spoke volumes. And Heyman heard every syllable. The tribal chief is back. And this time? He's not asking anyone's permission. Roman Reigns didn't climb that ladder for opportunity. He climbed it like a king ascending his throne, an apex predator surveying his dominion after reducing every challenger to dust. The briefcase wasn't a prize to him. It was a formality. An inevitability. The climb itself was slow. Deliberate. Not because he was hurt, but because he was savoring it. In the ring, the chaos was still settling. LA Knight was somewhere under a heap of broken steel. Drew McIntyre hadn't moved since being speared through the barricade. Seth Rollins was crawling toward the ropes, dazed. Cody Rhodes? A crumpled heap near the wreckage of the commentary table. Roman stood alone. Not a challenger in sight. WWE crowds are rarely quiet. Especially not during main events. Especially not when a former multi-year world champion is returning to grab the one item that could catapult him back to power. But in this moment, as Roman placed his boot on the first rung, the entire arena stood still. No cheers. No chants. Just tension. As if everyone watching understood, this was it. The pivot point. The reset. The symbolic return of absolute control. Some fans began to boo. Not because they hated him, but because they feared him. Others cheered, unsure of what this even meant. But all eyes were glued to the ring. The ladder Roman climbed was the same one Cody had said earlier in the match. A rung was bent where McIntyre had been slammed onto it. The steel had fingerprints smeared in blood, likely LA Knight's. It looked less like a tool and more like a monument. Roman climbed step by step, no wasted motion. No glances at the crowd. No mugging for the camera. This wasn't a moment to soak in. It was a job to finish. WWE's production team knew the weight of this moment, and they captured it like it belonged in a movie trailer. Low-angle shot, Roman halfway up, the briefcase swaying slightly, lit like a halo. Top-down aerial, a bird's-eye view of carnage surrounding the ring, with Reigns standing untouched in the center. Close-up, a drop of sweat rolling down his temple. No smile. Just steel in his eyes. Then the final shot. Roman at the top, both feet planted firmly, one hand reaching up, the other gripping the side rail. He unhooked the briefcase with a snap. There were no pyrotechnics. No explosion of music. No over-the-top graphics. Just Roman standing tall, one arm raised, clutching the briefcase like it was forged for his hand. The crowd's noise returned, half cheer, half outrage. Some chanted, "Tribal Chief." Others responded, but Roman didn't care. He never does. He didn't play to them. Didn't throw the briefcase in the air. Didn't talk trash to the camera. He just stared down at the ring. At the destruction. At the kingdom he had reminded everyone still belonged to him. Michael Cole's voice cracked as he called it, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has just stolen the briefcase. My God, he's just walked back into WWE and declared himself the apex predator, again. Corey Graves, clearly in awe, added, "This isn't just a return, Cole. This is a reclamation. This is Roman Reigns telling every single person in that locker room, your time is up." Wade Barrett chimed in from SmackDown commentary feed, "This is psychological warfare." Roman waited until the moment of greatest vulnerability, and now he's the most dangerous man in WWE again. As Roman stood on the ladder, holding the briefcase high above his head, the camera caught a final wide shot. Behind him, a destroyed ring. Bodies motionless. Fans on their feet in disbelief. In front of him, the future. Because holding that briefcase meant only one thing, at any time, Roman Reigns could strike again. And no champion was safe. For the third time that night, the screen split. On one side, Roman, triumphant. On the other, Heyman, still backstage, slumped in a steel folding chair. Phone in hand. Eyes staring into nothing. A single line from commentary cut through, "This isn't the Roman Reigns Paul Heyman knew. This is something else." Roman stepped down from the ladder with the same calculated calm he'd climbed it. 1 foot. Then the other. He didn't stumble. Didn't limp. Didn't look back. He adjusted the briefcase under his arm and walked to the ropes. The crowd reached for him. Phones out. Chants mixing. He ignored them all. Stepped through the ropes. Paused on the apron. Then dropped down and walked up the ramp, straight-faced, unmoved. As if none of it was a surprise. Every year, someone climbs the ladder and claims the money in the bank briefcase. But this time it was different. Roman Reigns didn't just win. He didn't just return. He reclaimed the narrative. Took back the spotlight. Showed the locker room and the WWE universe that even in absence, his shadow lingered. And now? He was back to cast it in full.